This podcast is being recorded on June 19th, 2020. Many states across the country, including Illinois, are gradually reopening. The infection rates in Illinois have declined to the point where we can begin to take baby steps back toward normalcy. We are testing the water, so to speak, to see if those rates will rise again as restrictions are lifted. Sadly, in many states where those restrictions were lifted or never fully existed in the first place, now are experiencing alarmingly rapid increases in infections, hospitalizations, and death. The pandemic is far from over, and I think we will never 6 months ago, but instead we will create a new normal. Did you ever think you would routinely, normally, before going anywhere, check to make sure you had your keys, your phone, your wallet, and your mask? And so it goes. We are anxious, but we must remain patient. We are tired, but we must remain vigilant. We are afraid, and we are discouraged, but we must persevere. Books help us do that. E-books facilitate access to books, and the library's Hoopla service offers thousands of titles with just a few taps of your finger. In pre-pandemic days, I enjoyed reading about the presidents, and I still do. There are, of course, biographies of each United States president available through Hoopla, but there is so much more. I am fascinated with the backstories, the little-known powers behind the throne, the ins and outs of political power. I enjoy the facts as presented by those who experienced them, and I enjoy the fiction of those who understand and embellish the presidency. Today, though, we'll stick to the facts. First comes a nonfiction title that offers a unique and beautiful glimpse into the presidency. It's by Martha McDowell, and its title is All the President's Gardens, Madison's Cabbages to Kennedy's Roses, How the White House Grounds Have Grown with America. McDowell tells the untold history of the White House grounds with historical and contemporary photographs, vintage seed catalogs, and rare glimpses into presidential pastimes. History buffs will revel in the fascinating tidbits about Lincoln's goats, Ike's putting green, Jackie's iconic roses, and Amy Carter's treehouse. Gardeners will enjoy the information on the plants, whose favor has come and gone over the years, and the gardeners who have been responsible for all of it. The 18 acres that surround the White House have been an unwitting witness to history, a backdrop for soldiers, suffragettes, protesters, and activists. Kings and queens have dined there. Bills and treaties have been signed, and presidents have landed and retreated. The front and backyard for the first family is, by extension, the nation's first garden. This is a totally nonpartisan look at the magnificent grounds of the White House gardens, and it might be a gateway to what I think would be a fabulous trip. Held twice each year, the White House Garden Tour invites guests to stroll around the White House grounds and share photos on social media. Visitors can tour the Jacqueline Kennedy Garden, the Rose Garden, the White House Kitchen Garden, and the South Lawn of the White House. Unfortunately, this year's spring tour was canceled because of the pandemic, but the fall tour is still on the calendar. Another nonfiction title offers a much more grim and difficult look at the presidency. Michael Kerrigan's 2015 work is Dark History of the American Presidents, Power, Corruption, Scandal at the Heart of the White House. This is a colorful inventory of presidential transgressions, and it reveals that every modern scandal is the descendant of remarkably similar predecessors. Detailing the disgraces of 44 presidents, from sexual skirmishes to CIA cover-ups, Dark History of the American Presidents covers just about every dirty deed committed behind the White House fence, from financial profiteering and insider trading to illicit bugging of the opposition. Jefferson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Kennedy are all presidents, as are the more likely suspects, such as Nixon. Running right up to and including the terms of Presidents Bush and Obama, Dark History of the American Presidents also tells the story of a nation's advancement from post-revolutionary days of anti-monarchy and slavery through the bitter strife of internal wars, Reconstruction, boom and depression, to her emergence onto the world stage as a superpower. Now, there may be no more difficult job than being President of the United States, and it seems that most every president has had to deal with one or more particularly challenging moments. President Trump is facing several at the same time: the pandemic, the economic collapse, and the human rights conflict. How he handles these crises will be judged years from now, and that will become his legacy. Michael Bond's book from 2015 is Presidents in Crisis: Tough Decisions Inside the White House from Truman to Obama. The author is a former director of the White House Situation Room, and he takes us inside the White House during 17 grave international emergencies, from North Korea's invasion of South Korea to the revolutions of the Arab Spring, and from the 13 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis to the taking of American diplomats hostage in Iran, and George W. Bush's response to the attacks of September 11, 2001. He walks us step by step through each crisis, laying out the key players and personalities and the moral and political calculations that the leaders have had to make. He provides a fascinating insider's look at modern presidential decision-making and the fundamental role in it of human frailty. Quite a different look at the presidency is offered in Party Like a President: True Tales of Inebriation, Lechery, and Mischief from the Oval Office. Celebrating the decidedly less distinguished side of the nation's leaders, humorist Brian Abrams offers a compelling, hilarious, and true American history on the rocks. A Washington to Obama, vice by vice chronicle of how the presidents like to party. From explicit love letters to slurred speeches to nude swims at Bing Crosby's house, reputations are ruined and secrets bared. George Washington brokered the end of the American Revolution over glasses of Madeira. Ulysses S. Grant rarely drew a sober breath when he was leading the North to victory. And it wasn't all liquor. Some presidents preferred their drugs. Nixon was a pill popper. And others chased women instead. Both the professorial Woodrow Wilson, who signed his letters Tiger, and good old boy Bill Clinton, though neither could hold a candle to Kennedy, who also received the infamous Dr. Feelgood's vitamin injections of pure amphetamine. And here's a little bonus. The book includes 44 recipes for cocktails inspired by each chapter's partier-in-chief. And speaking of recipes, here's a very enjoyable 2017 book by Adrian Miller, The President's Kitchen Cabinet: The Story of the African Americans Who Have Fed Our First Families, from the Washingtons to the Obamas. Miller vividly tells the stories of the African Americans who worked in the presidential food service as chefs, personal cooks, butlers, stewards, and servers for every first family since George and Martha Washington. Miller brings together the names and words of more than 150 black men and women who played remarkable roles in unforgettable events in the nation's history. Daisy McAfee Bonner, for example, FDR's cook at his Warm Springs retreat, described the president's final day on Earth in 1945 when he was struck down just as his lunchtime cheese souffle emerged from the oven. Sorrowfully, but with a cook's pride, she recalled, "He never ate that souffle, but it never fell until the minute he died." A treasury of information about cooking techniques and equipment, the book includes 20 recipes for which black chefs were celebrated, from Samuel Francais' onions done in the Brazilian way for George Washington to Zephyr Wright's popovers, beloved by LBJ's family. Miller highlights African Americans' contribution to shared American foodways. The Wooddale Library now offers curbside service, and this is a huge step forward. Because I am on staff, albeit for just a few hours each week, I've been able to see the changes that are happening and the truly amazing work that the staff is doing. As you drive by the library, you may see construction vehicles around the property, but you may not, as right now so much is happening behind the building, not visible from the road. It is loud, dirty, noisy, and wonderful. And inside the library, it is also loud, dirty, noisy, and wonderful. The changes are dramatic. Many materials are in storage, out of the way so as not to be damaged as renovation happens. There is virtually no area of the building that will not be touched and changed as the project continues. It is a dream becoming reality, and though construction takes time and patience, it will absolutely be worth the wait. In the meantime, we have thousands and thousands of books available in e-format through Hoopla and Overdrive. Keep reading, stay well, and thanks for listening.